Welcome to the Always Better Than Yesterday interview sessions. I am your host, Ryan Hartley. This channel exists to inspire and encourage your heart-centered leadership. Each week, I share interviews with some of the greatest heart-centered leaders in the world. I hope our time spent together helps you leave a heartprint where those around you are left better than yesterday. Please visit abty.co.uk if you would like us in your corner. These interview sessions are brought to you by Matt Media Online Marketing, an independent agency who specialise in content marketing, helping business owners get their message seen by the right audience. If you want to get your business seen through the power of social media, head to mattmedia.online. On episode 219, I am honoured to bring to you Kristen Butler. Kristen is the CEO and founder of the Power of Positivity, a worldwide community of over 50 million human beings. She is the best-selling author of the 3-Minute Positivity Journal, and this week has published her book, The Comfort Zone: Create a Life You Really Love with Less Stress and More Flow. We have an incredible conversation around what it means to live from the comfort zone. I hope that it inspires your growth, your journey, as you give yourself permission to live, love, and lead from your comfort zone. Head to the show notes, go get your copy of The Comfort Zone. It's out this week. It is Kristen Butler on episode 219, the author of The Comfort Zone and CEO of the Power of Positivity. Kristen, welcome to the Always Better Than Yesterday podcast. How are you?
I'm doing great this morning. How are you?
Very well. Such an honor to have you on the show. I've been reading up on your book, your new book that's coming out on April the 18th. I think it's going to really change some hearts and minds. But one of the things that really inspired me about the book, and we'll get to the concept of the book shortly, but was your story, was your background, was your upbringing. And I wonder if we can start there, if we might.
Yeah, absolutely. Where do you want to start?
Well, there's this one-liner that says that you were a 14-year-old social media maven.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, when I was 14, there was the library at school. It was the only place that had computers at the time. You know, I'm going to be 39 soon, so I'm dating myself. But I was checking my email and there was a website called bolt.com. It was like an advertisement in my email, and it said it was a social community with people all around the world. And I was like, at 14, I was like, wow, this is amazing. I was from a small town, so to meet people all around the world just sounded almost unbelievable, you know? And I signed up. I think my username was Kristen underscore 617 underscore 676 underscore 15 underscore something crazy like that. I had no idea like about usernames or anything like that. And after a few years, I started really making connections, and I just loved social media. I literally fell in love with it. And you could create groups at the time. And so this time, maybe I was 17 or 18, but I created a group called Bolt Beauties, and it was about inner beauty. And I started sharing quotes then. And I just love the connection aspect of it. And I started moving up on the site. They had like a top 10 list. I was always like top 10 or top 3, just because I just loved it so much. Any chance I got to be on the computer, that's where I was.
I love that. What's your heart for quotes?
You know, I had a very good relationship with my grandma, and she loved quotes, and she would read from the Bible or read from books, inspirational books or self-help books. And so I feel like that's who ingrained that into me, you know?
Yeah, that's powerful. I know that you dedicate your book to your grandma, and
Yes.
one of the things that I didn't expect to feel from your book was that you described something in there about how you didn't realize
your own life circumstance at the time. So you weren't defined or limited by this belief that maybe you were struggling, maybe there are some challenges. And I come from a single parent background too. And I look back at my younger self and I think, oh, I must have been, lower socioeconomic. I must have, the type of lunch that I had probably wasn't all of the brands and stuff like that. And yet I didn't realize that I was maybe poor or of a different type of background. And when you wrote that as well, it's like, oh yeah, you didn't realize that, and therefore you weren't limited by the preconceptions of maybe society.
Yeah, I really feel like as children, sometimes we might, it depends on our personalities, but wear rose-colored glasses and we have that innocence about us. And yeah, in the book, I shared that I had a very large confidence and belief in the world and belief in people. And I didn't see myself as poor, but as I, grew up, I started getting all the labels, right, from society and from people. And, I think over time it did diminish that innocence inside for a time, right?
Yeah, but you're a dreamer at heart, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Ever since I was younger, it's like I just always felt like there was something big inside and I wanted to make an impact on the world and help people.
Well, it's funny because here we are having this conversation in 2023, and yet the work that you've been putting out into the world for some time now had already impacted mine and my wife's life, probably 2016,
Yeah.
2017, through the power of positivity. We started to get into the online business space. I won't say entrepreneurial because I'm not entrepreneurial. I tolerate the running of the business side of things. I'm a coach and I'm a helper and a community leader at heart.
Yeah.
But I was coming across your content, which was just like oxygen, in a world full of negativity and controversy and conflict. Your space of the internet was always uplifting. It was always, as it says on the tin, giving out the power of positivity. So before we go and dive into that, I just want to first say thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
So I think you started Power of Positivity 2009. Is that correct?
Yes, 2009.
Hmm. Where did that come from? What was the initial hope? Did you ever expect it to become as big as it is now with over 50 million worldwide followers?
When I started it, at the time I was freelancing for other people, doing social media work, graphic work, and website stuff. And Facebook had just started groups, and I was creating groups for my clients. And I
Mhm.
thought, well, if I had a group, what would it be? I don't want it work related. I want to have a community of people that can inspire me. So I was thinking, like, what would it be? And it came to mind that really, to me, the most profound thing is positivity, like living a positive lifestyle, not just in thinking, but in your habits. And so I started the page, and really at first it was just about building that community of people that could almost keep me going, and I could help them and they could help me, and we could just inspire each other. I really feel like influence is everything, and the people that you surround yourself with. And I didn't really see that in the world at the time. I was making huge changes.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to create a community and share my findings of how I changed my life from rock bottom. And when you go through something, you just get so excited, at least I do. Like, I'm like, I got to tell everybody about this. Why doesn't everybody know? And so that's where I was at the time. I was just like, I want to shout from the rooftops. And because I love social media, this was an outlet for me to express that and to kind of bring myself into the world and connect with other people who might have felt the same way or might have needed the message.
Hey, my friends, thank you for being with us so far. I hope you're enjoying the interview. I just wanted to take a quick moment to let you know about our signature Heartprint coaching. Our Heartprint coaching is for you if you're ready to go all in on becoming a heart-centered leader, ready to go all in on doing more of what you love, ready to see what you are capable of with support, guidance, and accountability. You're ready to go on a rapid, transformational journey that will change your life and others in as little as 3 months? Are you ready to show up with courage and share your gift with the world? Ready to start making an income and more impact by doing what you love? Ready to start leaving your legacy where those around you are left better than yesterday? In our Heartprint signature coaching, in our time together, I'll help you lead from your heart set. I'll help you develop other people and your team. I'll help you bring your heart work to the world. I'll help you start leaving a legacy and capturing examples of your impact. I will help you be someone you love, to do more of what you love, and to serve people that you love. It's an amazing opportunity for someone who's ready to go all in and be a heart-centered leader. I'll throw in loads of other bonuses, including your life languages profile, access to our Master Heart and Mind membership, and even some Always Better Than Yesterday merchandise. Head to abty.co.uk/coaching to find out more, and I look forward to connecting with you very soon. That's abty.co.uk/coaching. Here we go. Back to the interview.
Yeah, I think, being able to describe rock bottom is quite a common thing that people in the online space are saying. But reading your book, you truly were rock bottom.
Yeah, I had a bed to sleep on and, food and, people who loved me, but I didn't feel like that at the time. I didn't see like that perspective. I just felt the weight of failures, all the labels. At the time, my health was suffering. The doctor told me, you're never going to have kids. And I let my business go, so that failed, and I was in bankruptcy. Really, every area of my life was falling apart, and I just thought, wow, like, why am I here? Like, I felt more of a burden on the world than, that I had a purpose. But when I kind of connected back to that purpose and why I was here and started rebuilding myself from that place, loving on myself, taking time for self-care, day by day, I started to feel a little better. Of course it took time, but it really made a difference.
Yeah, you talked about the Bible with your grandma, and I think we share a faith. And on your website, you talk about how power of positivity is a gift. And I'd just love to know kind of what is your perspective around that gift? Where does it come from? And how have you seen that as a way of your contribution to the world and to people?
It just feels so good inside. It feels like it's connected to my purpose. And so it just feels deeply ingrained to me because I'm being able to be of service and do something I really love. I really love social media, and I've always believed in it, like I said, since I was 14. And it just feels good to be able to help people all over the world that I never would have been able to help otherwise.
Hey friends, I just wanted to take a quick moment to introduce the new official sponsor of the Always Better Than Yesterday podcast, Matt Media Online Marketing. Matt Media have been involved in the production of over 100 interview sessions. I highly recommend their services. Matt Media Online Marketing are an independent agency who specialize in content marketing, helping business owners get their message seen by the right audience. If you want your business seen through the power of social media, head to mattmedia.online. You can find the link in the show notes. And here we go. Back to the interview.
I have a theory that our purpose is found in kind of three pathways. It's in some way linked to the things that we're passionate about, and it becomes purpose when we use that to serve other people. I think there's purpose in our pain. There's some scripture that says when Paul's pleading for God to remove the thorns from his flesh, the Passion Translation says, "In your weakness you will find my full expression." And I love that deep-rooted sense of purpose coming from our pain. And then the last one is the possibilities that we can create, for other people. I guess having said those three quite quickly, is one of the three, stand out for you? How did you discover what your purpose was?
Yeah, I love all three of those. I feel like as a young child, I wouldn't have agreed with the pain part back then, right? I felt like I already knew my purpose. It just felt so true. And I feel like pain can bring out your purpose, but I also feel like it doesn't have to. Um, I do know some people who, have grown up in healthy environments and had that type of guidance, and they feel connected to their purpose. So I don't feel like it's necessary, but when you're in those moments, you absolutely can get out of it with strong faith and belief in yourself, in a plan for you, in God, in the world, in people. You really have to connect to that faith first and know that things can get better when you're in that place. But I don't know that I feel like everyone needs to hit rock bottom to find that, but it can help for sure. It helped me, but I don't think it's necessary.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I understand that Power Positivity is a family business, and that you co-run it with your husband. And I shared this idea on LinkedIn a couple of weeks ago. It came from Alex Hanold, who was the rock climber. He's from the documentary Free Solo. He climbed the mountain. Honestly, it gave me complete anxiety whilst watching him. I must have held my breath for about 30 minutes watching him climb with no ropes. But in it, I heard this one-liner. He says, it's not about overcoming my fear. It's not about getting out of my comfort zone. It's about expanding my comfort zone. So I shared this idea. And then your good husband pops up and says, my wife's writing a book on this very topic. And I was like, oh my God, like it's a real thing. And then you're talking about how this has been like your life's work. And now you're writing a book on it. I was like, I don't believe in coincidences. So I'm so excited to have this conversation about the comfort zone.
Yeah, absolutely. I also believe in synchronicities, and it's kind of when you find those, that's like the path, go down that and check it out. So I thought that was hilarious. And when he told me about you, I was like, wow, I want to talk to anyone who believes in this concept because it is really life changing. And the more we can share it, the more we can help people.
But there are some barriers to first accepting your idea, which is this worldly view that we must first get uncomfortable. What do you say to that?
Mm. You know, I think that to define what uncomfortable is, it's different for everyone, right? When you stretch, you can feel that bit of stretch in your muscle and it feels just a little uncomfortable, but you wouldn't stretch to pain or injury, right? So I feel like we need to apply that in life. And that's where expanding our comfort zone comes into play, because if we can think about it like a stretch, and that little bit of uncomfortableness is good, but we don't want too much. I feel that a lot of people are living and they're not grounded in their bodies and they're very uncomfortable and they just don't realize it. And the idea that we must be uncomfortable to be successful and to be happy, just it doesn't resonate, because to what degree and how much do we have to suffer to get to where we want to be,
Yeah, and I guess, has there been a time when you've not lived this principle? Is there a time when something, was revealed to you about the importance of, hey, this isn't the way to live?
Yeah, absolutely. I picked up the step out of your comfort zone idea at a very early age. I was very inspired by my grandfather, who was, unfortunately very much a workaholic. And he kind of said like, hey, success comes outside of your comfort zone. And, the no pain, no gain type of thinking. And even, teachers would kind of echo that. And so I feel like I started to embody that, and I did get ahead in life. I would wake up really early.
Yeah.
I would just obsess about, advancing myself, being healthier, achieving my goals. And it's just not sustainable, because always trying to push yourself in that way leads to burnout, health problems, disconnected relationships with yourself and other people. There's just a myriad of things that come from that. And so from experience, I realized that this is not the way to live long term, at least for someone like me, that's a bit more sensitive. It just, I couldn't stay in that arena for very long.
Yeah. I mean, I think of like the big people out there like Tony Robbins that would say, if you're not growing, you're dying. So we're not
Yeah.
saying that comfort zone isn't about growing, because I think a lot of misconception is if you stay there, like there's this fear of missing out, that in some way life's passing you by. And I guess there's the three zones of living that you talk about in the comfort
Yeah.
zone. Like maybe if we articulate so the listeners can understand, what are, in your opinion, those three zones of living?
Yeah. So to me, the comfort zone is not complacency where you're unmotivated. To me, it's like the zone of inspired action. So you're taking action on things that feel good. You're not just taking action on things just because, you feel grateful. You're working from this place of ease and flow. There's harmony and abundance. Of course, life isn't perfect, but you're making the most of your journey and your days. You're taking time for self-care. You're creating healthy boundaries. I feel like that's just a really healthy place to be. The second zone, I feel like, is where people get confused about the comfort zone. And I call that the complacent zone. And for me, that was the zone of inaction where I didn't feel comfortable in my body or with the world. I felt like the world was a hard, difficult place. I was unmotivated. I was drowned by fear and struggle. And so this zone, I kind of got pushed here from being in what I call the survival zone. And this is really the zone of like excessive action, the hustle and the burnout. There's no work-life balance. You're constantly forcing life instead of flowing with life. You're trying to force and push and control things. And I feel like much of today, this is where the world is, lots of coffee, sugar, and things like that. Comparison when you're going on social media, and jealousy, and feeling like you're going to miss out if you don't take more action. But really, if we can settle into our comfort zone, we can create opportunities in the flow that don't always require action, because we might be taking smarter action, not harder action.
Yeah, I love that. That zone you've just described was definitely my 2019, working above
Mm,
my pay grade, trying to make some stuff happen. It was never in my
yeah.
control anyway. And it affected my relationships. It affected my health, my well-being. It affected my ability to be the parent I wanted to be for my kids. And
Mm,
the irony that I had to learn was one of surrender. And in that state of mind, I was never going to surrender, because I thought if I just work harder, then I will make these things happen. But it's a fallacy, because, it was more about my will be done.
mhm.
And obviously in 2019, the biggest story that my listeners will know is, and that's the time when my wife and I found faith. Because we got to the end of ourselves. We got to the end of what I could make happen, and learning how to surrender. And I think one of the powerful things that I think your book's going to do is first give people permission to live within their comfort zone. Is that powerful? Is that, having permission? Do you think that's going to be really key for people?
Yes, that was perfect. Absolutely. Because it's really just a mindset shift to be okay and not feel shame for resting, taking a nap, maybe slowing down. We have this life. And so we don't want to overdo our years,
Yeah,
and I'm glad that you also have been there and understand. I feel like we've all been in one of those three zones,
yeah.
and it really the quality of our life is determined by which zone we spend the most time in. And so if we want a happy life, we're going to have to figure out a way to get in our comfort zone, stay in there, and expand from that place so that we can truly enjoy the journey.
Yeah. Can can there be such thing as like too much comfort? And what I mean by that, and maybe it's the word convenience, maybe it's not comfort but convenience, because
Mm.
I think life has started to build stuff around us, like the ease of getting stuff on Apple Music or Netflix, or we can get stuff delivered. We've got nice comfy beds, we've got climate controlled everything. That's not what we're talking about when we say about comfort, though, is it?
No, not really, because I feel like if we want to spend a lot of time consuming, television or something else, there's deeper feelings in there. And in the book, I talk about
Yeah.
really diving in and understanding, to me, because that's complacency if we're always searching for something outside of ourselves.
Right.
And we're not really actually comfortable, because comfort is actually expansion, because we came here to expand and experience life and enjoy life. And if it's comfortable, hey, when I go to Florida, I love flying because it's a more comfortable ride than driving.
Mhm.
But we don't want to overdo it in a way that it creates, like you said, consuming too much outside of ourselves, right?
Yeah, I think the word you said, complacency, is great, because I think
Mhm.
the complacency just shifts where the pain's going to be. You get the complacency in this moment where I'm not doing the things that maybe I could and should be doing, and then I bolt on the problem later down the line. So,
Yeah.
I think one of the things I really like with your book, and it's really well laid out with the chapters and the way you talk about it, is the importance of identity, really
Mm,
crafting one's own identity so that we can show up in alignment with that. Where do people
mm.
start if they want to start living in their comfort zone? How do they build that awareness of what that might look like and feel like for them?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I feel like foremost, we want to start enjoying our own company and taking time for ourselves, not feeling lonely, but just connecting with that solitude. Because for me, that's also connecting with God. And
Mhm.
so spending time getting to know who you are, what you love, what
Mhm.
you're good at, where you want to go, maybe some problems you want to, address. I really feel like taking that time is so important to connect with our identity, because our identity is really driven by our habits. And when we get to know what our identity is, we can act on maybe even better habits, mental and physical habits that can drive the identity we actually want. Because sometimes we realize that there's some things we want to change about our identity, right? Like, hey, I want to be like this, but I'm doing this. So the consistency and aligning with that identity and our habits is really key to expressing who we truly are and why we're here.
Mm. You obviously have been the leader of Power Positivity for all that time. What we're talking now, 14 years, and
Mhm.
you know, help us understand how it's possible to do something like that in the world whilst within your comfort zone.
How I can That's a great question. I feel like I just connected with the gifts that I had
Yeah.
at the time and the passions that I had. And so that might look differently for everyone else. In the book, I don't talk about this is the game plan, the exact roadmap as far as this is what I did and you do that. You have to
Yeah.
find what your gifts are and the things that you love, and then come from that place, because we can all do the same. It's just really what's inside and what we're here meant to, and meant to do. Not everyone is meant to have a social media page, right? Some people, they can't even stand the computer. So I feel like um getting to know yourself and then coming from that place. And that's what I did. I I I loved creating, I loved designing, I loved leading. I always had like an entrepreneurial spirit, and I loved journalism. So there was just so many things that were in alignment that I discovered about myself, and I was able to propel it forward. And I feel like everyone can do that in their own way.
Mm. I find it absolutely fascinating, and I love it, that you've built this incredible business. As I say, 50 million people who are tuning into your stuff. It would be very easy to write a book with that very title. And I know that you've got journals, but it'd be very easy for your first lead book, published book, um, to be titled Power of Positivity. And yet here you go using something, and I think that's incredibly just real, I guess. I guess, did you have some inner conflict around what that might be, or did it just reveal itself to you and through you?
I did actually self-publish the 3-Minute Positivity Journal.
Yep.
That was through Amazon KDP. But the comfort zone was literally something I'd been working on. It's been 7 or 8 years now, and especially the last 2 or 3.
Yeah.
And at first, of course, when I started living from this place, I felt shame, right? Like, wow, I'm doing what everyone else says not to do. But as I saw it start to work, it built my confidence as I started to see other successful people and realizing that they too are living in that way, and talking to other people and seeing that, wow, this is really a powerful place to be, and that we don't have to listen to the advice, that we're being told. Anyway, my confidence grew just because about this title and this topic, because I'm passionate about it. I know that it works. It's how I created Power of Positivity. And it really is in line with positive thinking, because you're kind of creating your own little bubble of healthy choices, and expanding from that place.
Yeah, you really believe in the power of words.
Yes, absolutely. I feel like the power of words can push you down or propel you forward. And it really determines where your life goes. So I think it starts with your inner talk. When I was in a dark place, I had very limiting beliefs about myself. I gave up on my dreams and about who I was, how I looked, how I felt, everything was very negative. And as I started to come out of that, I looked back and I didn't realize how negative it really was. And transforming that, and as I continue even today to transform limiting beliefs that I find inside about myself, reality, people, circumstances, I'm continually changing those. Like, hey, my reality is really a culmination of my thoughts, truly, because my brain is constantly seeking the truth in my own reality from what I believe, and there's so much science behind that. And when I discovered the science behind that, I was like, wow, this is just so powerful. I mean, people can say positive thinking works, but when you truly experience that type of shift, it's just life-changing.
Yeah, and I think there's a big misconception even around the word positivity, because I think there's an element where there's a preconception where it's reject the negative, it's only positive and we reject the negative. But I think the most effective application of positive thinking is by first seeing the totality and then choosing. It's like saying, I see it all and I experience it all, and I'm not denying any of the experience, but actually, how do I move forward? How do I want to move forward? How do I want to choose this situation to go? And in my human consciousness, I'm able to lead myself to higher outcomes because I have the ability to choose and lead with the positive.
Yeah, that's absolutely perfect. In my journal, my first book, I talk about, I created the rare method. And so we first recognize the negativity, because if we don't recognize, how can we change it? And then we have to accept it, that this is the way that it was or how we felt. And then we evolve, so we recognize, accept, and then we redefine how that feeling or thought should be. And when we do that into something more positive, that's how we evolve. That's how we expand. And going through that process to the negativity in your life, to me, that's not, people have coined toxic positivity. Toxic positivity is ignoring everything, and it's not ignored. The body picks up everything and stores things. Our minds pick up everything and stores things. So when we can move through it, that's when we can truly heal and enjoy our life and not kind of just cover it up, right?
Yeah. one of the nice visuals that you make around the comfort zone or expanding the comfort zone is the word acclimation. I
Yeah.
really like that as a word. Tell us about the process of acclimation.
Oh, I'm so glad that you like acclimation because at first we were like, are people going to resonate with this or understand the word, right?
Yeah,
Um, but it's truly how growth happens. And
yeah,
no one has ever really talked about the stages of growth. It's just like get out of your comfort zone and
yeah,
let pain be the determining factor. But if we can use the process of acclimation to grow and expand and stretch our comfort zone, that's how we can truly sustainably grow.
yeah,
So acclimation is like I said about stretching. Well, you stretch just enough and you feel that bit of uncomfortableness, but you don't take it to the level of pain.
yeah.
So to me, there's three phases of acclimation. And I kind of have a diagram like you were talking about and explain in the book. So first, we are unfamiliar and uncomfortable with the process, but it's something we want to do. It's not something that we're like, no, I don't want to do this. I'm making myself do this. It's something that you're being kind of drawn to and you want to do it. And you're unfamiliar with it and you're kind of uncomfortable. But this phase shouldn't last long because once you get started and with practice, you move to that second phase. And so the second phase is familiar and uncomfortable. So you're starting to get to know it. You're still feeling that bit of stretch. But again, with practice, you're becoming more familiar with it. And the third is familiar and comfortable. And here is the goal. This is where you want to be. This is where you want it to feel natural. You love doing it. And if we give ourselves permission to kind of go through these phases, we'll get through something. I feel like a lot of people might give up at the beginning, not really understanding the process, or sometimes they spend way too much time in phase one or phase two, or even living in phase one or phase two of something. And that's not healthy. So we want to get to that phase three through practice and consistency.
Yeah. Do you know why I think I resonate with the word acclimation so much? It's because I think it describes my journey of
Mm,
podcasting. The very fact that I'm
yeah.
here having this conversation with you is the epitome of acclimation. So about 100 episodes ago, I interviewed a well-known chap called Matthew McConaughey, and
Wow.
so everybody would ask me, "How did you get Matthew on your podcast? How did you?" And for me, my answer was always, "Well, I had to do episode one." And the way I think about that in the context of acclimation is I had to use what I had, the resources available to me in that moment, and I just had to, for the love of it, like you say, the identity. I'm just going to bring my curious questions. I'm going to have fun while I'm doing it. And then the advice I give other people is like, do 10 without judging it. I just do 10 episodes because you're a human being who learns by doing. You touch something hot, you don't do it again, sort of thing. So you just have to
Mhm.
trust that you don't need to judge yourself, because the sheer act of showing up and doing the thing with what you have in this moment will always leave you better. And I think that's really then started to redefine the way I look at the name Always Better Than Yesterday, because in the start, it was a mindset of, oh, how can I find the 1%? How can I be better? Whereas for me now, better than yesterday simply means it is the natural byproduct of doing things with love. Like if I show
Oh,
up
I
with
love
love,
that.
if I love what I do and I love who I serve, then being better than yesterday is not a requirement. It'll be the result.
Yeah, I love that. Oh, that's really perfect. I totally resonate with all of that.
Mm. Yeah, and I guess what are what are some of the gifts of living in the comfort zone? One of my friends, Jen, she's asked a question around um, how how can we balance this idea of challenge but comfort? Because I think what she's seeking is peace. I
Mm.
think what she's seeking is peace in the way that she shows up. Because I think what Jen would associate with is definitely that characteristic of I can work my face off. Like I don't need to learn how to work my face off, but I need to learn how to almost rest hard as much as she works hard. So how would you how would you bring someone, maybe not back, that's probably the wrong word, but how would you invite someone into feeling more at peace and still stretching themselves?
Yeah, so being okay in the moment, you're saying, and peaceful with things just being where they are right now. I feel like gratitude is important there,
Mm,
really feeling grateful for that moment, um, because that's how you can truly enjoy the present and bring that peace. Peace is definitely part of the comfort zone.
mm. Yeah, another one of my good friends, Jason. He's from Fort Worth in Texas, and he
Mm,
I think you touched on it briefly, which is about how when you do things counter to the world, along with it comes this judgment. You mean you're doing what? You mean you're having a daytime bath? You know, my wife, I've definitely had some daytime baths, and my wife's like, "What are you doing? Shouldn't you be working?" I'm like, "Well, daytime baths for the win." Too much information. But so how do you let go of that external kind of judgment, and because I guess it's faith, isn't it? It's believing that this is the right thing and believing that it is before you even see, I guess. Like, how would you rationalize to Jason maybe quietening down those external voices?
you mean external voices from others,
Yeah, people
kind
judging
of
you, saying,
judging?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I feel like, hey, an example of your bath, if you feel you need to recharge, and a lot of times when you do go to work, you're working in the flow, you're feeling better. We know what we need, and no one else knows that. And actually, before I hit rock bottom, I was listening to too many voices outside of me. I
right.
started thinking that their opinions were more important than my own. And when you do trust yourself, and you can build that trust by consistently showing up and seeing that, hey, that is what I needed. And when you build that trust from within, even if you're getting the outside noise of, hey, you should be doing this or that, you can't listen. You can't listen to everything you're told, or what people say. Sometimes you have to politely kind of reject or decline their suggestion if inside it really feels necessary.
Mm, yeah, yeah, I appreciate that. One of the things I added to the LinkedIn post that your husband and you commented on was this context of leadership. So I
Mm,
believe that, I think you talked about science, and I think there's a real understanding of our human biology when we're under stress outside the comfort zone, which is we actually produce more cortisol, limiting the access to the prefrontal cortex, meaning our thoughts and our actions become less human, less others focused, less, more self-focused, which is the opposite of good leadership, right? Good leadership
yeah.
is about my ability to serve and other people and be able to sacrifice myself should I need to. And which is why I kind of had that thought in that moment, is that actually I need to be in my comfort zone as a leader so that I might get the best out of myself, my team, and the other situation. Um, what's your kind of perspective on when it comes to leading other people, being around other people, and getting ourselves in that bit where we are in our comfort zone?
Yeah, I feel like communication is key. Everyone's different and they have their own preferences and their opinions, but if we can communicate and understand each other's preferences and boundaries and offer that safe space to express ourselves,
Mm,
then I feel like we can really create from that place and in our comfort zone. We also want to, at least for work life balance, kind of respect um, respect that for our team and whoever we're working with, that there's no shame for downtime or rest or a vacation.
yeah.
um, I talk to so many people who feel guilty for taking off a weekend or taking a vacation, and we don't want to do that because our bodies are telling us like, hey, we need to recharge.
Mm, yeah. One of the images that's kind of come to my mind as you were speaking was just nature. And
Mm,
I think nature obviously does, so particularly the animal kingdom, they don't have the prefrontal cortex, which is the ability to think about their thinking, right? So
mhm,
they interact often by reading the energy around them. And isn't it funny how intuitively we know that we have to be calm and make that animal feel comfortable, otherwise it bolts.
That's so true. Wow.
So the same is true of our workplace, right? If we go in with an energy that doesn't make people feel comfortable, then we're going to constantly be at this edge of this fight flight situation where we've got arguments, conflict, maybe we've got disagreement, or just people just wanting to get out of there, not feeling safe, not feeling like they
Yeah.
belong.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what it means for me visually in a business setting. Is we want people to feel comfortable, meaning you're safe, you belong, come and contribute the best of yourself.
Yeah, definitely. Because people aren't going to express their ideas or enjoy what they're doing if they don't feel safe. They
Yeah,
feel like if their nervous system is always on alert in that like
yeah,
fight, flight, freeze that you're talking about. Because oftentimes that happens and we don't have access to our prefrontal cortex, and our amygdala is like stressed out. We don't have access to the flow or
yeah.
creativity or feelings of ease. So being able to really harness that at work is so important.
Mm. Do you have any kind of techniques, maybe affirmations, maybe it be breathing, any kind of techniques to recognize when you're outside your comfort zone, and ways of bringing yourself back to being centered?
Yeah, I think our feelings are just the natural indicator, of course.
Yeah.
And oftentimes reframing our feelings
Mhm.
and really feeling the moment, because I feel like in any moment we have the possibility to access gratitude or joy if we just switch our perspective. And recognizing the different feelings in each zone is so important to kind of bringing us back.
Yeah.
And as far as habits to kind of bring you back into your comfort zone, everyone is different. Affirmations are great. Taking a walk in nature, you were talking about nature. I love going for a walk in nature, calling a loved one, journaling, taking a nap. I have even essential oils.
Yeah.
There's just so many ways. I feel like, and everyone's different, whatever works for you to kind of bring you back to like balance.
Mm. Yeah, I'm a sandalwood kind of oil, cedarwood and sandalwood. I have some oils right here, right next to me.
Yes. Yeah, me too. I have lavender. Which one do you have?
So I've got a bit of bergamot and
Oh, nice.
yeah, I had someone make it up. So that is doTERRA, I think, by the looks of it. Yeah, I've got a
Yes.
friend. I got
Mhm.
a friend locally who does that, and she's made me up some kind of natural, shall we say, aftershave type spray.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
It's
very
very
nice. So it's
helpful. It really,
co-
it really makes a difference.
coconut oil, cedarwood, sandalwood, frankincense, and arbor vitae.
Mm,
All
nice.
natural. Um, what about relationships? I think if we applied the understanding of, now let's redefine comfort with complacency. I think we understand what complacent relationships look like. We're not investing in each other. We're not
Mm.
spending time with each other. Maybe we're focusing too much on the kids, and maybe we're not getting out and doing date nights regularly, or maybe we forgot to appreciate the goodness that each other does. I think that's complacent. But what does a relationship in a comfort zone look like? And what then do you think becomes possible for those two people?
Yeah, I feel like communication again is very key here, just
Yeah.
like in a work environment. When we can take time to talk about our preferences
Mhm.
and even our boundaries, that creates a safe space. Again,
Yeah.
when we safe space, I keep talking about it, but it really is so important in so many
Yeah.
ways. When we feel safe, then we can express ourselves with each other and our feelings and utilize the love that's there, because when we create borders, right, and put walls up,
Mm.
that shuts everything down. So, really making sure our communication is clear and happens often. Sometimes when you're busy, you don't take time to really talk about things. And that right there can take you out of your comfort zone in your relationship.
Yeah. Mm. I definitely resonate because, you know, my wife and I, we probably were complacent. Then we went through that discomfort period where things were not well. And then that brought us back to that, okay, well, let's learn to appreciate the gifts that we both bring to this dynamic. Let's learn to let go of all the things that we've come to resent about each other for being together for 20 years. And how do we kind of both give each other permission to just show up in the best versions of ourselves, grace for the shadow side of it, shall we say. And absolutely, we are as a unit far more comfortable, shall we say, in our zones of genius and in our contribution to our family, for sure.
Yeah, I love that. My husband and I are also 20 years, and knowing each other's preferences and the things that bring us joy,
Yeah.
and the way that we enjoy life and experience life. I think that's so important for sure.
Yeah. Well, it's like Proverbs 27 says, is as iron sharpens iron, so human sharpens another human. And
Yeah,
that's the
yeah.
wonderful thing about living in relationship with other human beings, is
Mhm.
that you
I
learn a
love
lot
that.
about yourself. You know, yeah, you're going to get refined whether you like it or not.
Yeah, that's true. Just don't, force the process, but then also
Right.
don't resist the process. That's so true.
Yeah. Let it unfold as its nature's intending it to be. One of the
Yeah.
paradoxes with your idea is many people will have such, you know, you talked about being a dreamer, such visions of the future. And yet, how do you balance the patience between expanding to being the person that's able to become that vision of the future?
For me, I just use gratitude. I'm
Yeah.
just very happy for where I am, how far I've come.
Yeah, right.
Um, I had a friend who I gave an early copy of The Comfort Zone to, and I talk about rings on a tree, and our comfort zones are much like rings on a tree where they are continually growing. And I love what she did. Actually, her name is Anna Costa. What she did was, on a particular day, she was like, I don't feel so confident in myself and where I am. And what she did was she actually drew a diagram of like rings on a tree, circular rings, and kind of put in each one how far she's come.
Wow.
And when she really looked at it from that perspective, she was like, wow, I've done so much. And sometimes we're always looking for that next thing.
Yeah.
But when we look back and say, look where I was and look how far I've come, no matter what that is, for you, that's so important to honoring yourself in this present moment, everything you've been through, and also then where you're going to go, because we're expansive beings. We want, more experience and more knowledge, and just kind of going back and forth between those two things.
That's such a powerful visual, isn't it? I don't know if
Hmm.
you've ever seen the Dunning-Kruger curve, which is the one often kind of goes up real steep, then it comes down, and then we journey. For me, I think that Dunning-Kruger curve represents what happens when we experience imposter syndrome. We find
Mm.
something new. Maybe it's like coaching, and it's like a confidence competence on the axes. So we get really confident really quickly because we've got this new thing, and then we realize how much we don't know, and then all of a sudden our confidence dips. But at this point it dips, we're far more competent than we've ever been. And I think as we journey along that competence axis, it's nice to reflect, actually, do you know what, let's stop putting confidence outside of ourselves and start bringing it in terms of the person that we are always becoming.
Yeah. Oh, I love that so much. That's great.
Yeah. What do you hope that your book does for people? It lands in their lap, or is there going to be an audio version as well? Audible?
Yes, I did
Great.
record the audio.
Love that. What do you hope? What do you hope for your listeners and your readers when they experience the comfort zone?
What you said earlier about giving them permission to
Right.
enjoy their comfort zone and prioritize comfort and feeling good in their body, feeling good in their life, feeling good in their relationships. I just want a paradigm shift where we're not always forcing and trying to get things outside of ourselves. Let's go within and harness that power that we were given and expand from that place. It's really like a mindset shift, and but it's so powerful to step into that and always go from within first before we're looking for everything outside of ourselves. So I just want more people to come from that perspective and create from that perspective. I feel like we're going to have more mission driven and purpose filled people in the world.
Yeah, amen to that. Love that. I think there's a lot of entrepreneur bros in the space that put all these, the greatest flex is this and that, and all money based. And I'm like, I genuinely think the greatest flex is being able to appreciate all we have without having to lose it first.
Yeah, I love that. That's so good. Yeah.
I have a word here at Always Better Than Yesterday. It's called Heartprint. And the origin of this word comes from my time in policing. My career was in policing, and we used to teach detectives the Locard's exchange principle, which is this idea that every contact leaves a trace. So we would teach the detectives to really think about where has the offender left of themselves at the scene. And I started to realize that we needed to be teaching leaders that concept too, because I truly believe that our leadership leaves a trace. Sometimes we leave people better, sometimes we leave people worse, sometimes that's conscious and sometimes it's subconscious, unconscious. But either way, I think the way that we show up and interact with people leaves a trace. And when that is people to people, I call that heartprint.
I love that.
I'd love for you to take a moment to think about what you believe your heartprint will be through the power of positivity, through you as a human being, through your book. What do you believe your heartprint will be?
I feel like I am a bridge here to others and an example of how to shine your light, to come from a dark place and know that things can get better and that you have a light within and you can shine it. And I think sometimes we forget that we have that light or we don't believe in that light. And my mission would be for everyone to truly shine that light as bright as possible, because I feel like that's why we're here.
I love that. I'm here for that. 18th of April is when the Comfort Zone book is released. Is there any question that I've not asked you that you'd have loved to answer today?
Are you going to start living in your comfort zone?
Well, I think
Or are you? Do you think you are already?
do you know what? I feel like you have put to words a feeling that maybe I wasn't aware of. That in some way, I've had guests on in the past talk about get uncomfortable, and I understand that mantra because I do ice baths and I do things like that. So I know that I'm putting myself in a state of discomfort. But actually, what I'm recognizing now is that even that in itself, I'm becoming more comfortable by doing that. The more I do it, the more comfortable I'm getting with it.
Exactly. I feel like the goal is to get more comfortable with more things. Let's experience life and get more comfortable with it. And when we have that type of mindset, we can do really anything. Like you were talking about the mountain climber, you had to get comfortable with that. That's a difficult thing. People who skydive, that's a very difficult thing, but they love it and they've acclimated to it. And so if we can just step into the world each day with that type of mindset, whether something is, we're humans, things are going to be painful, right? And they're going to be a bit uncomfortable, but kind of leading with that mindset.
Yeah, not everything's life and death, but even within sports, there's a guy called Dr. Kerry Evans who wrote a book called Perform Under Pressure. So he was the consultant with the All Blacks rugby team, one of the most successful rugby teams of all time. And one of the things he would train the players to be able to do is come back to blue mind rather than red mind. Meaning that if they got 1 minute on the clock left to go and they need to score a try, he wants them to be in blue mind, not red mind, which is comfort zone, not out of comfort zone. He's not leaving it to chance to say, hey, can you perform at your best if you're erratic and you're worried and you're stressed and you're frantic? No, we want to train ourselves in that moment to come back to the comfort zone. The same if we're doing talks or public speaking. There's no use me being so out of my comfort zone before I'm about to speak to you that I can't string a sentence together and give you a good experience as a guest. I have to find the comfort zone in me to be able to do my best in this moment. So I absolutely subscribe to your message, and I'm glad that you've been able to somehow take this concept and bring not only words to it, but research, science, reflective questions, journal prompts. It's an incredible book. So thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that. It's been a pleasure.
Love that. In the show notes, you can find all the great links to your great work. And I would just be honored if you'd leave us a final thought from your good self.
Yeah, get comfortable with life, get comfortable with experience, and just enjoy the journey.
Love that. Kristen, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for making it to the end of the interview here on YouTube. I hope that our time spent together has left you a little bit better than before you push play. Before you go anywhere, please leave a comment down below, some of your key reflections, your key takeaways. I love hearing from you and what this conversation has inspired in you. Let me know what you're going to do as a result of this conversation. I will be back next Wednesday where I will share another inspiring guest. To make sure that you don't miss that, please do subscribe, hit the bell, and you will be notified as soon as it goes live. If you're curious to know how I, through Always Better Than Yesterday, can serve you, your team, your organization, please do visit alwaysbetterthanyesterday.com, and it will be my honor and privilege to help you in any way I can. Keep leading, my friends. I've been Ryan Hartley, host of the Always Better Than Yesterday podcast here on YouTube. Always love.